After an arduous journey to the Altus Plateau, the welcoming sound of merrymaking was music to the ears. Little did the Tarnished know, this melody was one of madness and death. Before we venture into the lands between, here's a quick shout out to Aoa.com, our sponsor. If you want runes, items, armor, and weapons right now, you can get it from these worthy Tarnished, and by using the code in the description, you can get 3% off, courtesy of the Inhuman one. The scene at the Dominula Windmill Village was unlike anything the lands between had ever before witnessed. From a glance, the dancing women and festival garb seemed to extend a warm invitation to the joyful celebration. However, upon closer inspection, almost every aspect of the festivities took on a nightmarish twist. From the ghastly women who danced endlessly, caked with blood, to the nearby stables overcome with plague, no number of pretty flowers could mask the unmistakable stench of death. But what happened to the Dominula Windmill Village and its crazed inhabitants? In this video, I aim to answer this very question. As with all mysteries, it is best to pinpoint the catalyst that put this never-ending song and dance into motion. If we survey the West Windmill pasture, we begin to see signs of sickness and plague. The stables and nearby woods surrounding this plot of land had been overrun by numerous rodents of unusual size, which likely carried a myriad of diseases with them, resulting in the death of their cattle and exposure of their grains. Although the actual origin of these maladies is unknown, the nearby shaded castle is undeniably one of the best candidates. On a nearby cliff overlooking the East Windmill pasture, a lone battle mage observed the crazed, dancing celebrants safely from a distance, assessing the extent of the damage and formulating a strategy to end the madness once and for all. The item description for the Haima Glintstone Crown provides insight on their mission. One of the Glintstone Crowns bestowed upon Rea Lucaria scholars whose pursuits were deemed worthy increases intelligence and strength to the detriment of FP. Scholars of the Haima Conspectus sought the power to quell conflict, and to this end studied the sorceries of Cannon Fire and the Gavel. Interestingly enough, this scholar was never quite spurred to action, so the effectiveness of his techniques was never put to the test. As we venture into the East Windmill pasture, we see a number of celebrants giddily jumping up and down, seemingly entranced by their song and dance. Oblivious to the shocking scene just paces away. A pile of corpses had been set ablaze and served as a makeshift bonfire for the festival. We can find a navy hood that belonged to expatriated royalty among the deceased, along with numerous male bodies providing kindling to the flame. This leads to yet another thought-provoking question. Why were nearly all of the survivors female? But more on this later. The adjacent village Windmill pasture further supports the notion that Dominula was ransacked and pillaged by misbegotten raiders, creatures who despised their former humanoid masters. These ruthless beings would stop at nothing to ensure the villagers' misery and hacked away without restraint, slaying humans and cattle alike. Just to the east, the Dominula village proper was truly a sight to behold. Blanketed with endless patches of pink flowers, it was almost something resemblant of a peaceful scene. The word Dominula has roots in Latin and refers to a woman in position of authority or control. A fitting title considering the apparent lack of any men present in the village, save for the ghost of one man, whose final words served as an eerie revelation for the vile acts the villagers committed to unsuspecting victims. Eek, I hear a festive melody. No, don't skin me. My hide is filthy, I swear. It seems that this village of women prancing about was full of bloodthirsty cannibals that partook of human flesh. Even the armaments they wielded were modified agricultural tools shaped primarily from human bones, as evidenced by the never-ending supply of human bone shards they dropped upon death. At the highest point of the hill, the celebrants incessantly worshipped an oddly misplaced godskin apostle. It was only after facing off with this vile creature was I able to solve the mystery of Dominula Village. It is unknown if the villagers always had a taste for human flesh, but what is certain is that the Godskin Apostle heavily influenced their way of life. Similar to how the Apostle skinned and flayed its enemies, the celebrants adopted this practice and incorporated it into their customary traditions. The flavor text for the blue festive garb states, "Ceremonial garb worn by dancers at the festivities in Dominula, the village of windmills. Use of this garb, dyed in a stunning blue, is only permitted for the young maids who played the central role of the festival." This festival was none other than midsummer, a quintessential summer celebration that revolves around the summer solstice, which is the day with the most hours of daylight. Evidence of the midsummer festival can be found throughout the village. Beautiful wreaths with pink flowers adorned their homes. These were symbols of hope that spring would bring warmth and sunlight after the harsh cold and dark winter. The flower crowns worn by the dancers represented love, fertility, and celebratory times. Even the posts, typically reserved for crucifixion, were repurposed into maypoles, tall wooden poles decorated with flowers and garlands that were used to dance around. It was customary for the dancers to wear traditional garb for the celebration, long flowing dresses that moved gracefully as they spun in circles. Single women often collected 7 flowers to place under their pillow in hopes to meet their future husbands in their dreams. This is strikingly similar to the 7 gems the celebrants wore around their necks. It's clear that the once joyful villagers fell upon harsh times, as evidenced by the rodent infestation and the ransacked pastures nearby. Perhaps during these dark times, they were visited by the vile Godskin Apostle who deliberately twisted their once peaceful traditions into murderous acts of violence, forever tainting the purity of the village and turning it into a living nightmare. Another interesting theory I would like to propose is that Dominula village is simply a depiction of the dancing plague, an unexplained phenomenon that occurred in the 1500s. These fits were later explained as bouts of mass hysteria caused by famine and even demonic possessions. However, the most contemporary theories provide a more plausible origin for this erratic behavior, and it is this theory that seems to tie into the frenzied dancers of the windmill village. A fungi known as ergot commonly grows on grains used for making bread. Ergotamine, a psychoactive byproduct of the ergot fungi, has chemical properties similar to LSD, a powerful psychedelic drug that can result in hallucinations, intensified emotions, dilated pupils, and increased body temperature. Considering the fact that Dominula's windmills were specifically designed to store and grind grains, and the poor state in which we find them, it is highly likely that the dancers of Dominula experienced the effects of a psychoactive substance that altered their perception and led them to commit violent acts. Not only that, but the pink flowers that entirely surrounded them are none other than rhododendrons, which have slightly hallucinogenic properties if consumed or ingested. So what do you think happened at Dominula the Windmill Village? Were the dancers driven to madness due to a series of unfortunate events? Or did the Godskin Apostle simply awaken the evil that had always dwelt within them? I'll let you decide. And until next time, it's the Inhuman One signing out.